Hello and welcome to A-Level Graphics at Northgate High School. I'm Miss Hunting and I teach the graphics course alongside Mr Gaffney. This presentation is to give you an understanding of the A-Level Graphics course. It will include the facilities, course outline, examples of work and current feedback from the students about what they think of the course. This is the technology block. Inside are a number of design and technology rooms. Graphics is to be found if you follow the white arrow on the screen through the building's main entrance, and it's the second room on your left. This is T30, the main graphics room. It has 24 computers. Each student also has their own desk. It has a sink at the back as well as a wall of windows which lets in a really nice light source. OCR is the examination board for the Graphics A-Level. It is broken down into 60% for the personal investigation project, and this is chosen by the student. Then for the externally set task, the students get a choice of 7 outlines for which they choose 1, and this is worth 40% of their mark. The personal investigation is a non-exam assessment. The students choose their own project. They start their project in February after they have trialled out a range of mini projects and creative workshops that build up their skill and knowledge. For the practical portfolio, it's very similar to the GCSE projects previously taught at Northgate. They produce a range of research, trial out media experiments on the computer and by hand. They look at appropriate artists and produce 3 final outcomes. They also produce a related study. This is a written piece of 1,000 words or more, and you can also add illustrations with this. Often, students like to compare artists they have investigated. This is a personal investigation project example from a previous student called Naomi. She decided to base her project on a coastal skincare toiletry set. She loved going to the beach and took several first-hand photo shoots. She experimented with hand media. As you can see from her sketchbook, she produced studies of shells in pen and pencil. These were then scanned into the computer to develop further. Naomi investigated several artists. For the starfish study, she was inspired by an artist called Millie Morotto. This is an example of a tea packaging project including a tea shop model. Katie really enjoyed looking at the decorative tea packaging. She was inspired by an artist called Kath Kidson. From that artist, she drew different fruits using the artist's style and colour palette. Then Katie designed her own wallpaper for her tea shop model, as well as bunting and advertisement posters for the inside of the model. For the written related study, Katie wrote about the history of tea and packaging design. This is an example of a board game project. For this, Rachel made a board game, box and playing cards and counters. Rachel was very much inspired by the different countries she had visited during her holidays. She used her own first-hand photos to create her images. Rachel investigated several different board games to work out how she wanted her board game to function. Her final outcome was created using her strength in computer media. This is an example of 3 front magazine covers. Lauren wanted to incorporate her photographic skills through which she organised 2 main photo shoots using her friends. Lauren wanted to capture the essence of beauty within. She also wanted her products to appeal to her own age group. Lauren was inspired by the artists Hattie Stewart and Marcelo Monreal, for which she investigated on her own. The externally set task is a 15-hour non-exam assessment. Students can choose a starting point of any of the 7 given themes, for which they'll generate an appropriate personal response for assessment. They will carry out prep work, very similar to the previous project that they would have done, where they'll look at research, they'll produce media experiments, they'll look at a range of artists, through which they then plan and develop their ideas before engaging in the 15 hours of supervised time to complete a final outcome. This is an example of an externally set outcome based on the topic of Europe. For this, Katie decided to produce a set of postcards and stamps. This is an example of an externally set task on the topic of street. For this topic, Naomi decided to investigate the history behind the streets in Ipswich. She looked at the different styles of architecture. Naomi took her own first-hand photos through which she drew the variety of buildings in a range of media experiments. Naomi's final piece was a visitor's guide to historical sites in Ipswich. This is an example of an externally set task based on the topic of nocturnal. Lauren decided to produce a poster for a nightclub called Club Raw, as well as club passes. This is also based on a nocturnal theme. Scarlett decided she wanted to produce 3 posters advertising a visit to Tokyo. Scarlett enjoyed working in fine black pen and neon inks, which was a personal choice for her. To start the A-Level Graphics course, you will complete 2 mini projects, the zine and a trip-based project. These are to build on your skill and knowledge within graphics. The first project that you will start in September is to create a zine. This is a small advertising magazine. You will be given a choice of topics and you will select one. I have included some examples from last year. The second project is based on a visit, and this must include first-hand photos. Last year we went to Stonham Barns. You can see below Lucy's example of producing a poster for the Owl Sanctuary. During the introductory projects of the zine and the visit-based project, it's really important to be able to build your skills up so that when you come to do your final major project, you are at a really good stage and standard of work. So from both the projects, you need to undergo a variety of workshops. These will include looking at typography, and you'll also look at some font style artists to go with these. You'll experiment with drawing and painting. You'll have a go at print. You will experiment with computer as well as mixed media graphics. And also from the end result, you'll learn how to present your work in a really nice way as part of building up a portfolio which you will need for the end of the course for any interviews. Here is an example of one of the students' typography pages within their sketchbooks. You can see where they've experimented with the typography. They've looked at different colours and textures. They've looked at different artists for inspiration. They've thought about what would the colour look like behind the text as well as inside the text. They've illustrated the font styles and experimented looking at different angles or highlighting or adding illustrations with the text as well. This is an example of a student's sketchbook looking at media. You can see this student particularly likes to work by hand, as well as you can see on the right and down the bottom where they have used computers, and you'll be able to experiment with everything and then work on your strengths. So this student here likes to work with pen. They like to also use ink and watercolour, and then scan things into the computer and add and develop computer graphics. Looking at artists and being inspired by artists is a really important part of the course, and it's down to yourselves to investigate the artists that you want to be inspired by. We will give you suggestions and some ideas looking at the style that you like to work in, but it's really important for you to investigate your own. So you can see on this one here, a student particularly liked a kind of like a cartoony style. They also wanted to look at urban settings. They wanted a kind of a background artist to be able to help with their final piece. Once you have completed all your research, your media and your artists, you then need to put all these points into action into designing an outcome. And this outcome has to link to your bookwork, and you have to be able to show that and show and explain the links through annotation as well as visual. So you might include experiments on the page when you're doing your designs. So through each product you need to come up with 3 hand-drawn designs into 2 developed, and then that will then progress into your final piece. Here are some suggested career possibilities. In the last few years, several of our students have continued their studies into a foundation course in art and design or graphics. Other students have gone on to become architects, interior designers or illustrators, and some students have even been able to pick up an apprenticeship. This is just to give you an idea of the starting point of the salary that you could be on if you became a graphic designer and where it then progresses up the ladder. Over the next few slides, I have recorded feedback from our current Year 12 students.
Hi, I'm Joe, I'm in Year 12 and I took graphics for GCSE and A-level. The reason I took graphics was because my auntie is a graphic designer, which inspired me to take it for GCSE, and then later on through high school I did work experience with her in London, which gave me the idea to take it for A-level. Some skills we have been working on are computer effects on images and fonts, and then also lino cutting and marbling. In the future I'd like to see what I can do with graphics and try and be creative, but I'm not entirely sure yet.
Tracy, I chose A-level graphics as I enjoyed the previous years from learning and developing my creative design skills. For example, using self-draw and looking into different art styles. What I've been working on this year is a zine project, and I've been developing brushstroke and marbling, and I hope I can take a career in the future that uses graphic design, as that's my passion.
We are looking for enthusiastic and dedicated students who are passionate about their work. You will all have different strengths to bring to graphics. Some of you will prefer to work on the computers, whilst others will enjoy working by hand and scanning your images in. There may also be other strings to your bow, such as textiles and photographic skills. That is what makes you unique. All we ask is that you will be willing to have a go at all the workshops provided. Sometimes new experiences can open up new doors. Please do get in touch if you have any further questions about the A-Level Graphics course. Either myself, Miss Hunting, or Mr. Gaffney. Thank you.